In March 2026, Bolivia handed the United States one of South America's most wanted drug lords. That very month, cocaine seizures on the border with Brazil hit new highs, on a 400-kilometer frontier of Amazon rainforest, Pantanal wetlands, and navigable rivers that no force can seal. One map reveals why this border is an interdiction officer's nightmare. Bolivia's river systems flow naturally toward Brazil's Atlantic ports, creating gravity-fed trafficking corridors that no number of troops can ever fully close. So let's draw the map that makes the war on cocaine a war against geography. The global illicit drug market was estimated at between $426 and $652 billion annually as of 2014, nearly 1% of all global trade. Cocaine is its crown jewel. Bolivia, alongside Colombia and Peru, supplies 99% of the world's illicit cocaine. Yet today, Bolivia is no longer just a producer, it has become what Le Monde calls a strategic hub for cocaine trafficking in South America. The economics are unforgiving. In a country where the average income remains among the lowest in the hemisphere, a kilo of paste that leaves a jungle lab for a few $1,000s can command over $100,000 by the time it reaches an Atlantic port. That price difference is a gravitational force, pulling product relentlessly toward the shortest, most porous exit, the river border with Brazil. The coca leaf starts its journey in the Chapar and Yungas regions, is processed in clandestine labs, and then funneled down the tributaries that feed the Mamor and Paraguay rivers. The destination? Corumbá, the border city that Insight Crime describes as the beating heart of Bolivia-Brazil smuggling. But before we talk about Corumbá, we need to look at the map that makes all of this inevitable. If you look at a map of Bolivia's eastern lowlands, you'll notice something that makes a mockery of border security. The Beni, Mamor, and Paraguay rivers don't just drain the Amazon and the Pantanal, they form a natural highway system that flows by gravity straight into Brazil's Parana waterway and out to the Atlantic. The Paraguay River, in particular, acts as a liquid conveyor belt. It passes right through the Pantanal, the world's largest tropical wetland, a maze of channels so vast that it's impossible to monitor all of them. Corumbá sits on this river, and as Insight Crime reports, it is the beating heart of Bolivia-Brazil smuggling. Hundreds of informal ports are scattered along these waterways, places where a boat can load cocaine in minutes and disappear into the marsh. And now, drug trafficking is creeping into Bolivia's Amazon national parks. Protected areas like Madidi and Noel Kemp are being infiltrated by groups using them as transit corridors and processing sites, far from any ranger station. This isn't a line you can fence, it's a watershed. The water doesn't stop at a political boundary, and neither does the cocaine. The 400-kilometer border is effectively 3,400 kilometers of open door. To understand why the map wins, you need to understand who moves the cocaine. Brazil's Primeiro Comando de Capital, the PCC, began as a São Paulo prison gang. Today, it is a global cocaine trafficking powerhouse with reach into Europe and the United States. According to Diálogo Americas, the PCC has made Bolivia the new hub of Brazilian criminal organizations. But here's the trick, the PCC rarely sets up its own permanent presence. Instead, foreign cartels and the PCC subcontract Bolivian crime families for local operations, handling logistics, storage, and transport. This franchise model is smart. Local clans know every oxbow lake, every cattle trail, every bribable checkpoint. They don't need a corporate HQ when a family of river pilots can move a ton of cocaine in 4 days without leaving a digital trace. The structure is diffuse, layered, and extremely difficult to penetrate. Bust one cell and another 10 are born on the next creek. And the product keeps flowing, because the global consumer never sees the supply chain, only the price. Local pilots and logistics experts who grew up on these rivers are the true gatekeepers. The PCC's expansion into Bolivia means the network reproduces faster than enforcement can shut it down. Cocaine seizures at the Bolivia-Brazil border have been on the rise. In Corumbá alone, authorities are pulling record amounts of cocaine out of river boats and container trucks. But paradoxical as it sounds, rising seizures do not mean the strategy is working. They reflect a larger underlying flood. When enforcement squeezes one corridor, traffickers simply shift. Today, cocaine that once sailed directly across the Atlantic is also making a stopover in West Africa, through Nigeria, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, Cameroon, Mali, Benin, Togo, and Ghana. Bolivia's position as a strategic hub means it feeds both the traditional Andean pipeline and this newer transatlantic relay. The pantanal routes are multiplying, new informal ports appear faster than they can be mapped. The more cocaine you catch, the more evidence you have that an even larger volume is getting through. It's the classic balloon effect: pressure on one side makes it bulge out the other. For every ton seized, intelligence assessments suggest several tons have already passed. And those tons are moving at a speed that interdiction can't match. While a patrol boat needs days to cover a few hundred kilometers, a speedboat can cross the border and offload in Brazil before dawn. The water is always faster. Faced with a hemorrhage, the response has been increasingly military. In 2025, the United States designated foreign drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, granting the Pentagon broad authority to use military force against them. By 2026, Defense Secretary Hegseth was urging an offense, assembling a coalition of Latin American allies to take the fight to the cartels. Bolivia, on its part, captured and extradited to the U.S. one of South America's most wanted drug lords in March 2026, a dramatic display of cooperation. But the DEA's own assessment of prior military campaigns tells a sobering story. Operation Southern Spear, a series of strikes against suspected drug trafficking vessels, did not reduce the volume of cocaine entering the United States. Instead, traffickers changed their techniques, eroding traditional investigative methods. The rivers don't care about drones or missiles. They continue to flow. And the market, worth hundreds of billions of dollars, simply recalibrates. The same geography that makes the border impossible to seal also makes military interdiction a game of whack-a-mole. For every speedboat sunk, 3 more are built. The balloon keeps bulging. So the map wins. The Bolivia-Brazil border remains the purest expression of a geographic impossibility. All the patrols, drones, and joint task forces in the world cannot seal 3,400 kilometers of waterway that flows by gravity straight toward the Atlantic consumer markets. The rivers are a constant, and as long as the price difference between a Bolivian jungle lab and a European port remains staggering, the water will carry the cargo. The military crackdown didn't stop the trade, it professionalized it. The PCC and its subcontractors now operate with more sophistication, not less. And the money that used to flow through the Antilles is increasingly washing ashore in West Africa, where the same geography of ungoverned coastlines is now building a new transatlantic cocaine corridor. The map never changed. The river still flows. The river never asked permission. It just flows. And where it meets the sea, a new frontier is already taking shape in the ports of West Africa, where the same geographic logic that defeated American drones is now quietly constructing a global cocaine highway that no map of prohibition can block.